Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Core Conversations for a Monday. It's Victoria Day here in Canada, so happy holidays to Canadians who got the day off today. And it's also known as Monday for everyone else in the world. So we're doing this. Hi, Nanette. Looking forward to our chat on Friday. Quiet bodies. What's going on? So I guess I'll put both of these in. Keep it nice and tight. It's gonna be a good time. I love the work you're doing in that. So I'm looking forward to just chatting with you. And I see you're presenting at a conference coming up as well. Can you in the comment section? Can you put the conference that you're speaking at and what topic it is, so we can learn more about it, and I'll repost that later. And yeah, I'm going to send a couple of notes to some people here. Sweet. Happy Victoria Day. Helen Hayes. Pilates. Jessica, how are you? Sweet. All right, so here's the deal. Here's the ground rules for today. Today is a freestyle Monday, meaning I have no guests planned, but there's a few things that are happening in our world today that I want to share some thoughts on, and I do have a few people who are going to be just popping on just for a few minutes. Benjamin, how are you? Guts Pilates will be one of them. Everly is the other. So I have two people who will be joining me a little bit later on in the show as people who are going to be elected through the PMA or on the election ballot that just came out today, if you remember. Fun fact, I am a member of the PMA, and I don't know how. Oh, maybe because I was speaking at something. Whatever it is. But anyway, so I got the email today. So it's interesting. So Guts Pilates, Everly Pilates are two of the individuals that are on it. So I'm going to have them come on and just talk and just share their heart in a few minutes. And I asked Nanette to just share what she's doing. So Fletcher Pilates Celebrating Ron is on May 29th. She'll be teaching Refine the Spine, incorporating spine corrector in the foam roller. Register with code Fletcher50 to receive $50 off. Sweet. If you are doing any workshops or conferences, please put it in the comment section. Love to hear from you. And yeah, so yeah, in the comment section, if you're doing any speaking and hey Taru, good to see you. Just looking something up here. It looks like Musa, it looks like you can't join. You have to upgrade your app in order for you to join me on the conversation. So if you want to take maybe sign out, do that, and then jump back in. That'll be helpful. Other than that, I just want to get started with a few things while I have you in the room. And just going to wait for these comments to come through. How many of you know, okay, so I think it's Victoria Day in Canada, and how many Canadians are in the room right now? Show of hands, Canadians. So we have the day off. So even though it's a day off, I could have just sat at home and just chilled, but instead decided to spend some quality time with you guys. It was my son's birthday last week, so I've been milking that with him and just doing fun birthday stuff all week, whether it's just conversations or taking him places and just hanging out with him more. One of the conversations that we've been having while, I just some talk about some things before I get to the PMA topic and to the Queen Victoria topic. So I have a couple stories for us today. Today is like story time. So as I was talking with my son, we were talking about the fact that the people that you hang out with up your value. They make you sharper. They challenge you to think about different things. He has a friend that I drive the two of them to practices, and then his dad brings them to practices on the off days, and he's a great guy, great father. So I really like philosophically how he parents his kids. His kids are amazing, and he treats my son like he was his own, and likewise I do that to his son. So we're talking about value yesterday, and I saw a post from his coach actually that said that if you see me with other people, that they're people who are smarter than me or better than me, someone that you're aspiring to. So there's a sense of, even professionally, us as Pilates people, surround yourself with people who are going to challenge you to be better, who are going to see your worth, who are going to see your value and respect you for who you are and where you're going. So that is a great message. And I want to share with you a story that I found this morning, and it starts with this picture. There's a story of a father who gave this car to his daughter. His daughter was graduating from high school, so he said, I want to gift you this car. It's been lying around for a while, so but I thought that this would be a good gift for you. So she looks at it and realizes that, as you see, it needs some work. So he says to her, take this car down to a used dealership and see how much money they'll give you for it. So she takes the car to the dealership, and the guy says to her, I'll give you $1,000 for it because it needs a lot of repairs. So she comes back to her dad, says, Dad, guys at the dealership said I'm going to give you $1,000 for the car. So he says to her, okay, take the car to a pawn shop, see how much they give you for the car. So she takes the car to a pawn shop, and the guy looks at it and says, you know what, this thing isn't even running, so I'll give you $100 for it. So she goes back to her dad and says, the pawn shop was even worse. They said only $100 because it's not running, and they don't do repairs, so they just said $100. So he says, okay, fine. Take it to this car collector show. She takes the car to a car collector show, and two people offer her $100,000 for the car in that condition because of its rarity. So she comes back to her father and says, Dad, two people offered me $100,000 for the car. And he says to her these two things, the two takeaways from the story. One, don't be mad at people when they don't see your worth. And two, don't stick around people who don't see your value. Don't get mad at people when they don't see your worth. They just don't understand you. And don't stick around people who do not see your value. So you're wasting your time. Being a car guy, being a father, I appreciate this story massively because that is how we should be walking through our lives right now. As we live this Pilates life, as we live this fitness life, as we live our careers, jobs, and stuff like that, it's so easy to get comfortable around people who do not see our worth, who do not see our value, who do not see our potential. Distance yourself from those people. There are people who see your values, who see your worth, and see your potential. Make time for those people, and don't even be bitter with those who don't see your value. Move on from that. There's others who appreciate who you are and what you're worth. Love that story. It's such a good analogy. So that's our little life lesson for today. So that's story number 1. Any thoughts on that story? I know sometimes there's a bit of a delay, so I'll just pause for a moment before getting into my second story. Hashtag life lessons with Martin, exactly. Michelle and Nadia, thank you for joining me. If you missed the little Corvette story, you can watch it in the replay. Now, second story. This one as well is something which I think is super cool. Today is Victoria Day, and Michelle, I think you'll love this story because once again, we just did life lessons with Martin. Now we're doing history lessons with Martin. Check out this picture. This lady right here, her name is Sarah Forbes Bonetta. Sarah Forbes Bonetta is the goddaughter of Queen Victoria. Today is Victoria Day in Canada. Queen Victoria of Britain, the royal family. And this lady and her family are connected to the royal family. Not blood, but it's interesting the way that history likes to censor black people's role in life and history. So check out the story on this lady. In 1850, Queen Victoria had a heart for this lady who at the time was 7 years old. So she was rescued by a naval commander named Frederick Forbes, who was on an expedition to West Africa. And there's a king at that time who was just wicked, had slaves, had all kinds of people that were enslaved in there. And this girl at the age of 7 was going to be sacrificed simply for entertainment by this king. So the commander at that time was Frederick Forbes, as I was saying. So Forbes on this expedition, talking with this king, was able to persuade him to not sacrifice the girl. He said, instead of sacrificing her, let me take her as a gift, and I will present her to the Queen Victoria, as a gift from a black king to a white queen. Let me take her and I will present her to the queen as a gift from you in all of your nobility. So I will present this girl from a black king to a white queen. So Commander Forbes was able to take this girl. The name of the ship was a Bonetta. His name was Forbes. So he named her Sarah. They don't know what her actual name was. There's some ideas as to what it was, but they went with the name Sarah Forbes Bonetta. So at this time, the white aristocracy really did not care about black people, colonials, all that stuff. They didn't. But Queen Victoria actually did. She was one person who did care about her people, did care about black people to some degree, and was really enamored with this girl. She was extremely intelligent and talented and a beautiful girl. And Queen Victoria at that time had a heart for her, named her Sarah, and actually called her Sally, just out of affection. Her daughter, Queen Victoria's daughter, and this lady were like besties, basically best friends. So Queen Victoria became her loyal friend, supported her, paid for her education, protected her, did all these things for Sarah as she grew up until the age she was able to marry. Took care of her as her goddaughter, as a daughter, like her own family the whole time. Queen Victoria visited her on several occasions. She went back to Africa at different points during her life, and then she would come and visit, and they interacted. Queen Victoria sent for her to come and live in Britain at one point. Even when she got married, the royal photographer was at her wedding. When she had her first child, she asked for and was granted permission to name her daughter Victoria after Queen Victoria. And Queen Victoria became the godmother to her first child. Sarah died at the age of 37. She died of an illness, as many people did during that time. And Queen Victoria gave an annuity to her daughter Victoria. Basically, an annuity gives her essentially a salary, much like the royal family is getting paid the rest of her life. So to this day, the descendants of this lady, Sarah Forrest-Bonetta, live in Lagos in Nigeria. And they are descendants. And Queen Victoria was a key role in her life, pouring into her, educating her, treating her like a daughter, and her next generation. Her daughter is a direct goddaughter to the Queen. That is Queen Victoria. That's the Victoria Day that we're celebrating here in Canada. And that is yet another Black history story that we don't hear. Craziness. So I love this story. And check it out. I'm going to post this later. There she is again. And here she is with her husband. Also a Black wealthy businessman. And can you imagine in this day, rich Black people connected to royalty? How many times did you hear this story? Probably not many in that day. But this was like Queen Victoria's second daughter that she never had. So I love when these stories arise during this time. So these are the things that we celebrate today. There's so many Black people who say, I'm not celebrating these white holidays. I'd much rather look and just dig a little bit deeper and see who is controlling the narrative, who is controlling the story, and let's celebrate those stories. So that's Queen Victoria. All right, so that's story time with Martin. There's your history lesson for today. Any comments? I'd love to hear what you all think. I didn't read them while I was talking. Alexa, good to see you.
I can help reorder everyday items, track your deliveries, add to your shopping list, or answer product questions. To get started, just tell me what you need, like order AA batteries.
What an incredible story, beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. Quiet Body says, Martin, thank you. Get to Work says, wow, thank you. Yeah, I thought that was really an amazing story. I posted on my Facebook and for people to reach to share it. I think we need to share these stories so much more. All right. Now, I don't know how much time we're going to spend on this. And personally, I wrestle with how much airtime I want to give to this. However, there are people that feel that this is very central and very important. And I question its centrality, but I definitely do appreciate its value. The Pilates Method Alliance are doing elections for people who are going to be on their board. And I respect tremendously the people who want to be there. And I have been on both sides of the fence with many things in my life where when many people have given up on it, I still had hope and I stuck it out, and I was like last man standing, going down with the ship because I believed it could change. And there's times when things changed and I had the I told you so moment, and there's times when I decided to just take the last rubber dinghy as it was going before it completely sunk. I'm not saying that this is going to happen either way with the Pilates Method Alliance, but I am really excited for the people who decide to put their name in the hat, who have faith that they can affect change, and I support them wholeheartedly. Everly was going to be joining me around the 10:30 mark, and Moimosa, I struggle with their name. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna keep working on it. Is joining me right now. Like Michelle, I'm hopeful that this works and that the Plies Method Alliance can have a great voice and influence and have a standard for our work. But and we don't need to rehash the wrongs of the past. We can live in today and move forward from today. So that being said, I want to bring him on. I want to hear a little bit of his story. He's joining me this week for a full session of Core Conversations, but since it's a freestyle and the door is open, I'd love for him to join me. In the same way, we can have up to 4 people on this at any given time, so I could bring him on. If there's someone else who wants to join us on air, you're more than welcome to join me as well. Let's just flow with it and go where it goes. You know me, I'm pretty easy with these things, and if things blow up, so go. And that's my Jamaican coming out. Anyway, so let's bring it up. Guts Pilates, where are you at? Hannah's here. Hi, Hannah. Laura, I thought you were doing a little break from social media this week. Where is he? Not really here. So I sent a message to Momoisa, so he'll be on shortly. Laura, I loved watching you all week as you shared how you were doing your staycation. There's still a sense of accountability to rest and to be purposeful with that. So I love the fact that you were sharing that and giving people a window into your world. Michelle, hope you're doing well as well. I was hoping that Misty would be here. I think I'm going to have Misty on. I think I'm going to be on Misty's show in the next little while too, so that'll be fun. Okay, so I'm going to bring him on. Yes, sir.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, fantastic. Good to meet you, Martin.
Likewise, man.
Finally.
Yes. I feel like, honestly, man, every time I talk with people, I feel like I'm connecting with a pen pal. Like when you have like face-to-face contact with them after talking for, you know what I'm saying? Like old school pen pals. You're like, hey!
Yeah. No doubt. Definitely kindred spirits and old souls. So I'm glad you had me on, and I'm glad I figured out this whole. You sent me the Instagram update thing. I was definitely traveling with the old school version, and so.
Yes. So you can spend the rest of the day exploring all the new features and stuff now too. So you're all good.
And so is this how it'll work Wednesday too? You'll just be able to send me.
Yes.
A link and then I'll log on. Great.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. And now also with this new one, for those of us who are watching too, if you want to join us on air as well, you can. We can have up to 4 people like on the chat. So it doesn't have to be just 2 people now too. So it's good to do that. So maybe even when Everly is live, I might bring her on as well, like with you on too. We can figure that out. Yeah. So Moimosa, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Moe Musa. A lot of people call me Moose to just shorten it up, but it's Moe Musa, yeah. Or Mumusa is an easy version too.
Okay, yeah. There's something about abbreviating names, you know, that like I remember when I was a kid, my mom telling me a story like when I was just born, and you know they're like, oh, he's so cute, blah blah blah. What's his name, Martin? And they're like, oh, hi, Marty, and she's like, no. Don't call him Marty. That's not his name. And I remember hearing her say that story, and like ever since then, I'm so hesitant to abbreviate people's names out of
respect for the parent who like lovingly gave this name, and then you're gonna go shorten it up on them, right? So
I hear you. Now, did you mention your ethnic origin is Jamaican, so your mom was Jamaican?
so my both my parents were born, raised in Jamaica,
Okay.
moved to the States, and then moved to Canada. So I was born in Toronto, born and raised in Toronto, Canada.
Okay, great. Does that make you first generation Jamaican Canadian?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that's how I would say it. I would say I'm second generation Jamaican or first generation Canadian or Jamaican Canadian. Like there's all these iterations of to say this is where I'm from and this is where I am,
Yeah,
right?
no,
So,
that's fantastic. My parents are originally from two very, very small remote villages in Sierra Leone in
oh,
West,
okay.
and my dad came over on one of those USAID scholarships very early on in '63.
Hmm.
He sent it for my mom, and then we had my older sibling and sister here. Then he flew my mother back in '68, and I was actually born in Sierra Leone. And then
Okay.
we emigrated here in '73 finally, and I grew up in DC.
Okay. Very cool. So did you catch my Queen Victoria story just
I
before?
caught the tail end of it, and that's what I mean. I tuned in because
Yes.
I know it's going to be. I
Yes.
think I know a fair few, and then I know it's going to be an education. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I had absolutely no idea, and
Yes.
it's amazing. But we have these stories of black folks and African folks around the
Hmm.
diaspora that if we didn't otherwise tell them, they would fly completely under the radar. And so
Yes.
it's nice to to tune in and to figure out. I caught the tail end of it because I was
Hmm.
fiddling around with the with getting back on in the Instagram. But from what I caught of it, Queen Victoria sort of befriended slash adopted this woman from Nigeria. I don't know if it was during the colonial time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it
And
was.
actually, I believe it was Sierra Leone. Like I mean, or like somewhere in West Africa. This king Guezo,
I'm not
King
familiar.
Guezo,
Okay.
evil. It's just like it. It seems like
Okay,
he was
Nigeria then.
pretty.
If he was,
Maybe she settled in Nigeria, but I think it's
okay.
like West Africa originally that this expedition went to. But yeah, but the king, this commander, this naval commander, basically had to persuade the for those of you just tuning in, we're talking about a history celebrating Queen Victoria and Victoria Day here in Canada. So this commander, this British commander, talked this king out of sacrificing the 7-year-old girl because he was going
Wow.
to sacrifice her just for entertainment. He said, instead of sacrificing her, give her to me, and I'll
Hmm.
present her to the queen to say, like, this from the black king to this
Sure,
white queen, I give you
sure,
this gift. And
sure,
he was like, okay, fine, take her.
sure.
So
Okay,
then when he
that was the part of the story I missed.
that's a part of the story. So yeah, so when the commander presented her to the queen obviously had a heart for her and recognized that she was a gifted girl, and then paid for her education, took care of her, made sure that she was well taken care of all through her education up until she was married. And then when she was married, her first daughter named her Victoria, and Queen Victoria was her goddaughter and is taking care of the goddaughter as well. So
Yeah.
and yeah, and that's a piece of history you never hear. And we celebrate Victoria Day, which is like, okay, well, she's monarchy. Sure, I'll take a day off. But you don't recognize the fact that in that day, for someone to give airtime to black people, to take care of someone, like she could have been like, okay, that's nice, make sure she's fine. But like she
Yeah.
visited her, like her daughter was like best friends with this girl, like treated her like her daughter, right? Like that's a pretty cool story.
That's an amazing story. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't heard it before, and I'm glad you shared it.
Mm-hmm.
I, 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 I can't speak to my. I would have to refer back to my folks, and I'm sure you coming from Jamaica as well. There is a way in which colonial aristocracy, the British, and if it's sometimes the French in West Africa, actually treated our sort of West African tribal aristocracy in terms of chiefs and paramount chieftaincies
Yes.
that were very sort of as equals,
Yes.
as equals in terms of just interpersonal relations. And so it would require a deeper dive, but that's very much in the culture, right?
Well said. Well said. And that's the thing too, is that I put on my Facebook post, it was kind of a mad post because I was saying that my problem isn't with the characters in the story. My problem is with the storyteller.
Mm.
Because yes, like there is this like monarchy to monarchy, you're a queen, I'm a king. We're level here, even though you're black or I'm white. We're equal level because we're kings.
Exactly.
But
It's
the
almost
story is
like
told.
yeah, it's almost like color dissipates, huh?
Right.
It's I just got back. I was telling a friend, I don't know, or even a client. I just got back from Sierra Leone. We went out. I lost my grandmother in the beginning of the year. She was over 105, and
Wow.
we went back to Sierra Leone. So we went back to my mother's village to bury her. It was an incredible homecoming, and we were there for about a month. And after being there for about 2 or 3 weeks, you just sort of, I woke up one day, and I don't know how to describe it, Martin, but you lose your sense of blackness, of color.
Yes.
You don't wake up being black. I mean, there are other issues peripherally that you
Sure,
deal
sure,
with,
sure.
but
Yes.
that's not an anxiety you carry around with you
Yes. Yes.
because you're home, you're in the motherland. I don't know if you feel that way when you go back to Jamaica,
I
but
do. I totally do.
you're like
Yes.
and I think it's a perception, right? In
Yes.
America or Canada or in a sort of quote unquote, when we are minorities in a culture, we have this sense of that's the way we are perceived. But when you're
Hmm.
home, you lose that sense because you are now part of the greater, and
Yes.
you function as such, and there's just less
Yes.
that kind of mental weight you're carrying around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm gonna bring Everly on in a moment, but that just reminded me of just a funny story from when I went to Japan.
Mm.
Um, so my wife is white,
Mm-hmm.
and as we navigate Canada and all these different places, my kids knows it too, the nod, right? The iconic, you see a brother, what's up? Like just give him the nod, right? So my kids are like, at first my kids were like, Dad, you know like every black person. I was like, uh, not really, but yeah, sort of. And my wife also gets it, right? So I didn't have to explain to her. She understands that. And then one day, true story, we're in Japan. We're in a McDonald's because we're trying to get some Wi-Fi. It's the only spot we can get Wi-Fi. I went for a bit of a walk, just wandering around the station, and she was sitting in the McDonald's just by herself, trying to figure some stuff out. I come back and she's like, "Hey, I got the nod." I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, a white girl walked by." Because everyone's Japanese. The one white girl saw her, was like, "Hey," like, and she's like, "I got the nod. I got a nod from somebody." And so, I mean, that's a
That's a
whole
great
separate story
story.
of it, but like, but yeah, there's a sense of being in a different culture when you're suddenly the majority. You don't think about your skin tone,
At
and
all.
then when
It's
you're
not.
apart from it, it's not. It's a different thing, and you have to acknowledge it in certain ways, right? So,
Sure. It's not projected onto you. It's not
right,
projected on. So it's not something
right,
that you have to deal with. And so we have to remember, that, we're, we're part of this, human kind of,
yes.
flow thing going on first and foremost. And then we put on our racial identity when we, it's like that, your Gore-Tex jacket to kind of get in there and
Right.
do your thing.
Yep.
But it isn't something you need be attached to necessarily, other than well, in the States, it can be tough. A lot of the times it is, and
Yes.
we just have to deal with it. But on the islands in Jamaica and Sierra Leone, there are other issues, right?
There.
There are issues
Yes.
of entrenched sort of, how do we, what's the poverty situation? What's the class dynamic?
Yeah.
What's the, it's just it's a whole different trip.
Absolutely. I'm gonna see if I can bring Everly on while you're on, because I know she only has a few minutes here. But I just want to layer in that conversation into Pilates and what you guys are trying to do in that
Yeah.
space as well. It's so funny. It is exactly parallel in many ways, and that worked.
It did
There
work. I
she
wasn't
is.
sure if that was a thing. How cool
It's
is
a
that?
thing.
Good morning, Melissa. Good morning,
Good
Martin.
morning,
Good
Emily. How are you
morning.
doing? Good to
I'm
see
doing
you.
well. I'm so encouraged to be in this circle of Black excellence.
Yeah, I know. We are
Well,
How
out
rare is
there.
this moment?
you just think
Right here.
totally up the value of the moment right there by just showing up. So
We are
Well,
out
thank you
here.
so much. I was really enjoying learning a little bit more about Queen Victoria's history. I've never heard that. And I agree, echoing and agreeing. I was There's a way that Black history, not just American Black, brown history gets erased, or if it is even presented, like you were just saying a moment ago, it's not queen to queen, king to king. It's, I'm allowing you to call yourself a queen, or I'm allowing you to feel
yes,
special in this moment. It's no, I am special. My culture is allowing you to be here. There's a whole change your mindset in the moment,
yes,
and recognize that I am royal to my
Sure.
people. I'm a human,
yes.
so we have equal value anyway. But man, yeah, I was just sitting here nodding my head. And my family is Black American. I do have Native American ancestry as well, but for Black American. And so I don't I studied African studies. My minor in college was African studies. So I wanted to try to find deeper roots, because I don't have them readily and
Yes.
easily available. So traveling to the motherland for me is going to the Black hair section at Target. It's not it's ooh, got a couple different items to choose from now. But I when I went to the Ailey School in New York City at one point, as
Okay.
when I in my older training, and that for me was a homecoming in a way. It's the closest thing that I
Yes.
kind of relate to, because I'm used to being the Black girl in the room,
Yes.
the black tall Black girl, and then also being as tall as I am. Even when they were partnering situations, I was usually cast as a male character, and it's that's not who I identify as. There's just so many layers of removal from my identity and with it I identify myself.
Yes.
And when I got to go to the Ailey School, I just looked around and I was oh my gosh, people were gonna have to find another way to identify me. I was not the Black girl in the room. I wasn't the tall girl in the room. I was Everly, and you had to actually get to know me.
Yeah.
And I had never experienced that. And I was 19, 20, experiencing that for the
Respected for who you are, as opposed
time.
to being labeled by somebody else.
You can't just look around, oh, there she is. It's no, you have to invest in my humanity in this moment. You have to know.
See me.
Yeah. And so I had never experienced that, and it was very beautiful and trippy at the same time, because it's wow, I've never felt this. And my ex husband is a white man, and hearing some of what you were sharing about with your experiences, I understand. Yeah, my kids being these very fair skinned, long, straight haired kiddos that don't necessarily look like me. If I'm walking around, it's sup, nanny? It's I'm my kids. It's
Yikes.
see me,
Yes.
and invest in my humanity, and it doesn't matter if they're my biological kids or not, but they are. But it's like, it's don't take my layers away. Like I am this is a part of who I am. Like,
yes.
And so I'm loving the conversation, and thank you for asking me to join in.
Yes. No, I honestly, I love having both of you in the room, and I have 757 questions for both of you. But as I was saying right at the beginning, there's times when I feel like I can affect change. And even if no one else in the room believes that change can happen, I'm the one who, whether I vocalize or not, I move like I am capable of affecting change.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't asked you that, but you both carry that sense and that presence of I am powerful enough to affect change wherever I go. Mm-hmm. So why do both of you want to be in this PMA in this capacity?
Sure. Do you mind if I go first, Melissa?
Yeah, no, go ahead. You're on the roll, and I'm not gonna break your
on the roll.
You go flow, so go for it.
What you just said, Martin, it's just like there has to. I'm gonna tell my story. I'm not gonna speak for every Black or brown person. My story as a little Black girl, it was, oh, so this is the way your voice sounds, and you like to dance. Good luck at life. You know, it was.
Mm-hmm.
I had to kind of have an extra layer of here.
Yes.
Because when I go into a room, if it's a white space, I am changing it when I walk inside, and so that just is what it is, and that's part of my personal life experience when I walk into the classroom in kindergarten. If I'm the only brown or Black person, that's going to happen. And so it's like, well, let's roll with that, because I'm intelligent and I'm passionate and I care. And I also really, really, really deserve to be treated equally to everybody else in this room, regardless of the way that I look. It's not a pleasant feeling, especially when everyone looks the same except for you. It's like, am I being treated differently because of, and what thing? And so in my head, I would always try to pick another thing. I'm like, oh, it's because I'm tall. Oh, it's because I'm trying to find anything something else. It can't be because of my skin, because that's not it. That can't be the reason why. And it's like, and not in every situation, but in very many, that was why. And so that's just been my experience, and I'm sure experiences that the two of you can echo. When you walk into a space, you're going to stand out. Depending on where the space is, you're going to stand out. And it's like, okay, if you're already going to look, hear me as well. And I wasn't so sure. I was slated to teach a workshop for PMA's conference last year, and there were things that were happening, and it's like, man, I'm not so sure about this anymore, to be very, very honest. And I wrote a letter to then executive director, and copied the president of the PMA, because there were some specific statements that were put out by that person in particular, and I was just very heavily offended by the statements. And I understood that, I felt that maybe she was trying to say something that was nice or pleasant, but it wasn't feeling so good. It's like, it's called the Pilates Method Alliance. And I, in my mind, when I close my head, I see like a quilt with these different patchwork fabrics that are all a part of the same quilt. And it's like, that corner isn't less part of the quilt, and that part over there isn't more part of the quilt. It's
regardless of its diversity and difference,
and
they're
the
all on the
is
same.
What makes it pretty. It's actually what makes it valuable and something to invest in. Like, if I just see this like plain old blanket at Walmart, it's like, I'll get one on my Delta flight for free. You know, oh, my light just went out. But it's like, if I see this patchwork tapestry that took effort, and work
You pay
and
more for that.
collaboration, and just it's like I will invest in that. Who
Yes.
made it? Where can I get it? And I will, without even having to be asked, I will promote that thing, because that's art. That goes from being a thing that's just, well, you know, here's a blanket. We make blankets. Here's a blanket. It's like, do I need a blanket? I already have 1,000 blankets. I don't have a quilt though.
Right.
I don't have this gorgeous good morning. I don't have this gorgeous fabric. And it's like, that's what I want to be a part of. And when Carla Harris, the now interim executive director, when she read my letter saying that I was not going to teach in the conference and that I was not going to be renewing my membership, and that was very hard for me because I've worked so damn hard to be in a position to be asked to do something.
Right.
Like, that doesn't just happen. I had to work harder in almost every area of my life to just be there.
Just to be part of the conversation, consideration.
To just be considered, to just be there. I've already had to do, at very least, the same amount of work, but. And so, I mean, and a lot of people have heard.
We're just like, nah.
A lot of people have heard my story, and it's true. Like in college, like I went to college on scholarship, and people were like, "Oh, it's because she's Black." It has nothing to do with that. It's because I'm brilliant. Welcome to the conversation. Like that's not why.
I'm that good.
And I remember somebody in my class had the audacity to come up to me and was like, well, you got into the University of Florida and I didn't, and we have the same GPA, so I know why you got in. And I was like, oh, you do? I was like, let's talk about it. And it's like, so how many languages do you speak? And she was like, and I was like, and are you the vice president of a National Honor Society for the language that you don't speak? No? Okay. And I just kind of went down a little list for her, just to
run it off
her out.
Yes.
It's like I'm a cheerleader. I'm on track. I'm the vice president of the Spanish Honor Society. I was in the Southeastern Consortium for Minorities of Engineering. I was the president. Like I'm an engineer. I'm a mathematician. I'm a scientist. I speak Spanish. I'm gifted in talented programming school. It's like, but we have the same GPA because I'm in IB classes.
Yes.
Like, don't come for me. Don't come for me. And it's like, but that was my truth. So I've worked so hard just to be considered.
Yes.
And then to get there and see them acting sideways and backwards and crazy, it's like, I had to make a choice. It was hard. I talked to Sonia Herbert. I talked to a few people, but I strongly value her as a professional and as a mentor. And we had some candid conversations. And she's like, I don't want you to be anyone's sacrificial lamb. I don't want you to be tokenized. And it's like, I don't want that either. And, you know, it was very challenging. But when I met Carla, she read my letter. She reached out to me personally and was like, do you mind having a conversation with me? And she's like, honestly, I read your letter and I get it. I would have quit too. She's like, and if everyone leaves the building, there will be no one at the table.
Yeah.
And she's like, you can't ask people without your experience to care about your experience and to want to change it. And so, you know, she shared some of the things that she wanted to do. And I was like, I'm not so sure. I'm just going to observe. I stood back and I watched, and the things that she said she was going to do.
Thanks, Charles.
Working on those things. And I was just very personally inspired and decided, you know, let me put myself back out there because I genuinely love Pilates. I love it.
Yes. Can I just jump in for 1 second there?
Yeah.
And that speaks to the power of a conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing to just have an casting call for Black people, step in, as opposed to kind of taking a moment to have a conversation with you, for people to be heard, for people to be listened to is a completely different situation than an all call for Black people to come to sit at the table.
Yeah, it was really, really, and I didn't know her. She didn't know me. Like she read all the letters of the people who sent them in as the person in her position, and she was like, I'm gonna talk to this woman, and that was wonderful. And I still wasn't gonna just jump on because somebody brown or somebody Black was talking to me. Like, I had to see what's happening because this organization is hurt. Not me personally yet, but it's hurt people that I care about, and it's hurt people that look like me. And so I have to see the change start to occur. And I watched and I watched, and I would just tune into these calls, and people would give feedback, and she'd take notes, and then the next week she'd have a course that was based on and it's like, oh, she's actually listening, and not listening like, maybe in 5 years. It's like, I know that, the 10 years is not very long, and she could not be doing what she's doing. To be very honest, she could probably not be having conversations with people all throughout the day and putting in that work. And so I was able just to kind of see the leadership, and also see the changes that were actually happening, language in the bylaws changing, seeing that there's actual like action steps. If somebody does something, there's a way to actually do something about it now, as opposed to not. It was it was not very well run.
Well, it wasn't well run, and it's almost like a job where no one cares anymore. So it's one thing for the head to enforce, it's another thing for people to have enough collective investment to police themselves.
Yeah.
To create their own sense of accountability from the fellowship that's there, right? So I have a sense that, like there was bylaws before, and now there's bylaws now. What's the difference? You're going to have people in the room who are actually going to help to enforce the bylaws, because they know that now everyone's invested and everyone is going to do it for the interest of the group collectively. So because it was there before, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's, that makes a difference. I think it's going to be the people in the room enforcing that and encouraging people to live by it that's going to make a difference. Mimosa, I'd love to get to you in terms of your why.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know that I could follow.
Hey, Chris. I know it's
touched on so many things, and while I have not myself been as kind of in the know really with past PMA politics, and what I can say is, for me, it's excellence, right? It's love, it's excellence, and it's knowing that we're care providers, and we have a mandate, a calling to take care of one another. So my sense of how a functional board works, and not a dysfunctional board, is that's our priority. It's not about our egos. It's not about, self-aggrandizement or any of that, but you get this calling and you say, how can I be of maximum value and benefit to those others who have sacrificed, because that's what it really requires, right? To be a Pilates instructor, to be an entrepreneur, to be an academic, to go through what we have gone through means that we have this sort of collective, and so we need to be out there celebrating one another. It's just really, it's odd to me that there is negative, because sometimes I have to go to my kids, time out, same team.
Yes.
Y'all
Thank you.
Yes.
Everybody's got a Amadou on the back of their jersey when you walk in.
Yes.
Yes. I love that when it was the same team.
I wrote that down too, Everly.
Have arguments, have this and that, but at the end of the day, we have to have each other's backs. And so for me, that's what the unity piece means. I feel like my voice in that regard could be really useful. I've been at it since 1992.
Yes.
And I'm actually up here in Boulder, Colorado, where it all started for me. And so in my kind of, I know, right? In my, and I worked with, the Alper sisters and Ramana and old school classical Pilates and stuff, and learning it in a certain way kind of structured my whole navigation into it. But, to be, and to touch on what you said, the vision is just different, right? So if you're in a teacher training program and it's all white women, you don't sort of go, it's like you're in a teacher training program first.
Yes.
So, so you've got to get the information, you've got to get the technique down. You just have to kind of, so for me, having been raised in an international school and then going, you're always, it was, I had the kind of coming up of being around folks from 80 different countries around the world.
Yes.
And it didn't matter. You just still had to be excellent.
Yes.
And so it didn't occur to me that I was different or being perceived as different or the only person. But there is this awareness now, right? And you can't even be a Pilates instructor if you don't really notch up your awareness level.
Yes.
Your clients, your patients, your whatever. You just have to kind of
level up.
Now know what's going on in terms of how do I interact? How do I heal the person in front of me? And if you don't expose yourself to as many different people, cultures, surroundings, backgrounds, you're at a loss, right? In the world we live in now, you're at a loss all the way around. So you've got to bring this kind of awareness of, oh no, I cannot bring my entitlement anymore, my sense of entitlement. Oh no, I cannot bring this to the table. I cannot bring this. But I can infuse this space with this energy. And for me, it really goes back to, are you competent? Are you good? Do you have some experience? Do you bring joy? Do you bring vision? Can we trust you? Because much of an elected body is, what are you all doing to further the vision now of this thing?
How are we making it better? How does your presence make it better? When you leave, is it going to be a better place than when you arrived?
Yeah. And so, so when I look around and over the years, and I haven't seen us guys around in the numbers in which we need to be represented. I have to put that on me. I have to say, you're a guy, you were fully turned on by Pilates 30 years ago, and you're still in it today. And you've kind of navigated this professional life where I'm also in sports medicine and athletic training. But, we are a young organization, right? We're 20 years old. So if you look at other healthcare organizations, physical therapy, athletic training, any other sort of, you have your hiccups and your growing pains. And so we need to sort of look at ourselves as, we're having hiccups and growing pains. But for me, I would like to be invested in the actual growing piece.
Yeah.
There's a sense of having grace during those growing pains that needs to be there. It sounds like what you're saying there.
Yeah. And grace, right? So to me, that word means that you're able to function in sort of the most arduous conditions, right? Hold your head up high, keep your posture, maintain your calm, and still cut through the nonsense, the BS, the noise, the clutter, to get the work done. And you're able to do it with a sense of calm and joy that translates to the next person. Because I mean, we can't. Our mandate is really to take care of one another, right? We're
Yes.
the alliance is supposed to be there so that we navigate entrepreneurialism and professionalism and raise the bar academically for one of us and create a safe space for everyone to heal. That's what it's about. You can, and so to, you know, to, for me, I've been given so much more than a livelihood, a craft. I mean, this is really
Yes.
informed. For me, Pilates is, and people are like, well, you know, if you've got this career, why do you teach Pilates? And I'm like, and you don't understand. I will always, I will always be a Pilates instructor, no matter what else I do, because of what
Yes.
I'm afforded in the gift that I've been given and how I can.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
You know,
We
in
need to
more,
just sort
yeah,
of
good.
stay focused. I was looking at the map of where all of these Pilates schools are, you know, all over the world, and I was thinking we got to have a Pilates school right there in mainland, you know, sub-Saharan Africa, as long as we're at it as a
Yes.
vision, you know. We have to sort of, you know, what, you know, if we're going to go the academic route, should, you know, can we all now look towards in a couple of years having you know, national provider numbers? You know,
Right.
if we're
Right.
looking towards bettering entrepreneurship, how do we make a reformer weekend that's portable so we can, you know, go to a client's place? So to be, you know, to be really proactive in terms of how are we getting ready post COVID to support one
Yes.
another and to give each other bright ideas and to go, my business really operates this way, or I
Yes.
want to do more medicine, or I want to make more money. You should be able to come to folks in the alliance and we should be able to hear you say, how do we do this, you know, in real
Yes.
time, and in
Right.
real time come up with solutions, as opposed to, you know, folks sitting back going, you know, here's where we are, here's where we think we ought to be moving. We're all moving together
Yes.
and hopefully in the same direction.
That is amazing. Well said. Well said. And Maria, so one of the things that you
Yeah, that's it.
said,
I mean, but Martin, you've created this space, right, in this
yes,
forum that is, you know, and I tune in as much as I can. That is really exciting. It's a thrill. Trust me, 30 years ago, I would have never imagined that I would be.
Oh, I think he froze.
yes, Rose.
But I would be here too. There we go.
Yes.
I'm
But I wouldn't
floating
have
your plate for you,
imagined
bro.
I wouldn't have imagined being able. Let me juice my tongue. I wouldn't have imagined being able to be in this space, and so it's just such an
Yes.
honor. And we got to
Thank you.
hang
Thank
in there.
you.
We have to hang in there and be the change and be the
Yes.
growth.
While
Absolutely.
requiring change.
Yes.
I agree
Um,
with you while requiring change of others.
yes, exactly. We are
Exactly.
past the 11 o'clock point. I know we all got to run. We got stuff going on here. One last thing I just want to say. I think he's frozen again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but one of the things that we were said earlier, just Everly before you came on, is that sense of monarchy to monarchy or royalty to royalty. That there's a sense of carrying ourselves, and it was seen as you didn't see color first. You saw the level and the royalty that the person carried. And
Mm-hmm.
talking with you two as queens and as kings, that's how I feel we carry ourselves. We should walk into rooms like we're talking king to king here. We're
Absolutely.
talking queen to queen. We're talking royalty to royalty. as we step into these rooms. So we don't have to start with proving ourselves and proving our worth and proving that we're not here because of the color of our skin. We're here because of our capability and because of our lineage as human beings. So yes, I'm so glad that you two your names are in the hat. I hope that you get it, and I'd love to hang out with you guys every single day of the week because it's such a rich conversation.
Thank you so much for inviting us on. Like, it was really awesome, and I'm looking forward to helping to be a part of that change while requiring other people to change and enforcing the change in myself and in the people around me, because that's how we're going to get the things that we want to get. That's how we're going to grow personally and professionally.
Nice. All right, I'm going to sign you two off. I got to jump off as well. But thank you so much. This replay is going to be running. I'm definitely going to put this up for everyone. So I'll send it to you as well so you guys can put it on your pages as well.
Thank you so much.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you
All right.
soon.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.